What do we think is going to happen to interest rates over the next 12 to 18 months? Well, all signs point to the fact that they are going to drop. Now, what happens when interest rates drop? Houses become more affordable because the money is cheaper to get. What happens when houses are more affordable and there's more demand in the market? House prices are going to increase. So that could be a reason why house prices might increase more towards that 10 to 15% mark instead of their average of 6 to 7% per year. Welcome to Checks and Balances, brought to you by Partners Life. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And today we're here to tell you why now is the perfect time to buy a house.
We're back in your life to talk about why right now could be the right time to buy a house. Mike, I was actually on the phone to a client yesterday and they said to me, I've got some cash, but my friend told me the housing market's going to drop a bit more before I'm going to buy, so I might as well hold on. My question to you, is now a good time to buy a house?
Actually, no. James, now is not a good time to buy a house. Now is the perfect time to buy a house. So I get really frustrated when people have those sorts of conversations, not because I'm a mortgage broker and I want you to take out some debt, mainly because we are not fans of trying to time the market, right? And we go on about this quite a bit. It doesn't matter if the market's up, down, left, or right. We think that being in the market, having your hat in the ring is a good place to be. So obviously, even though now is the perfect time to buy a house, let's say we're not at the bottom of the market. Let's say it was 2 months ago, or let's say it's 2 months from now. And your customer's right. It is going to drop a little bit further. I don't give a because to be honest, now is a great time to buy a house because 20 years from now, when you look back, you'll be thinking, oh man, why didn't I do it then?
Yeah, and I think from a disclaimer perspective, it's important to say that we're not saying it might be a good, house prices are just going to start going up tomorrow. We're not, we're looking at the indicators and thinking about this from a long-term perspective. So Mike, why are you so confident that house prices are going to increase?
Cool. So I'm confident for a number of reasons. The first is the actual price of houses at the moment, right? So house prices across the country have come back somewhere around 8 and 9% from their peak. And yet each different city, region has its localized flavor to it. Auckland's down about 20%. Christchurch, I think, is something similar. So we know that house prices, they follow a pretty steady trend, right? There's a boom, there's a bust. There's a boom, there's a bust, much like economic cycles. And at the moment, we're in a bit of a bust, and it's pretty obvious for everyone to see. So house prices have come right back. They are cheaper than they have been for a long time, which means that they are more affordable for people on a dollar basis, right? So that's where house prices are at now. What are our expectations for house prices in the future? So over the next 12 months, I predict that house prices are going to increase, and I think they will increase at least on par with the average, which is 6 to 7% per year, right?
There's some economists calling much bigger numbers as well. I know there's some out there saying over the next 18 months, house prices might jump 15 to 20% based off a range of different indicators, which sounds crazy, but we've got some rationale why. The other big thing, Mike, interest rates. Let's talk about interest rates. So in 2020, and we were sitting at sweet 2% interest rates, on $1 million mortgage, you're paying $20,000 a year in interest. With interest rates now at 7%, that's jumped to $70,000 in interest on $1 million mortgage. So people are stuck. People can't move. Why are interest rates high, and will they stay high?
Interest rates are high because they follow the same cycle as the economic boom and bust model, right? So we are trying to fight recession, stop people from spending. That's why interest rates are high. The Reserve Bank has done that on purpose. However, that is interest rates where they are now. What do we think is going to happen to interest rates over the next 12 to 18 months? Well, all signs point to the fact that they are going to drop. Now, what happens when interest rates drop? Houses become more affordable because the money is cheaper to get. What happens when houses are more affordable and there's more demand in the market? House prices are going to increase. So that could be a reason why house prices might increase more towards that 10 to 15% mark instead of their average of 6 to 7% per year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to increase 10 to 15%. I'm also not saying they're going to absolutely increase 6 to 7%. My bet is that it will be somewhere in between that. And I think it might be erring a little bit more towards the higher side of things in terms of the percentage increase.
Yeah, so inflation at the moment sitting at about 4%. At its peak, I think it was about 7.2%. The Reserve Bank wants to see us between 1 and 3% before interest rates start to come down. There is a lot of people calling. There is a lot of pain out there. Businesses making people redundant. Adrian, or do something now.
Yep.
And he's like, I ain't moving till we're back within that band. So the question is, when the inflation number comes out, will we sit in the band next time, or will it be towards the end of the year? Will we get, as soon as we're back within that 1 to 3% band, will we see a cut? And will that cut, the real question is, will it be like November or February next year? Which is wait and see. But the big thing is that's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, I'm picking November this year will be the OCR cut. But hey, if I'm a little bit wrong, I still don't matter. If it's February next year, doesn't make any difference, right? One of the other driving factors that I talked about there is the demand for houses. Now, we have had record migration coming into the country for the last, 6 to 12 months. We've had over 150,000 new migrants entering the economy. Everybody who comes in needs somewhere to live. And James, remind me, around about how many new housing permits are we building per year?
Pretty much diddly squat. And it's because being a developer is so bloody hard with high interest rates and the demand for property at the moment. But the problem is developers need to start building houses before there's a demand so it can meet. Before we move on, we talk all the time about planning and growing our wealth, but protecting that wealth is just as important. That's why having the right insurance in place can help when life goes unexpectedly.
And that's why this episode is brought to you by Partners Life, a New Zealand operated award-winning insurance provider with over 300,000 Kiwis insured and 89% of claims paid.
Partners Life understand that having some insurance is better than having no insurance. They have flexible and personalized solutions for any budget or situation.
Check out their website in our show notes below.
So we've got increased demand with increased migration numbers and decreased supply from developers not producing enough houses. Plus, we have interest rates coming down next year. And then when interest rates come down, there are a hell of a lot of Kiwis who have families where they need to upgrade homes, or their incomes are stronger, or they've been waiting for their house price to increase before they go and do something. The pent-up demand as well is another terrifying aspect.
Yeah, 100%. So if we're looking at those broad factors that could put a bit of gas on the fire, we're looking at increased demand through migration, a decrease in the interest rate, which will increase the affordability. And I want to talk about another kind of really key point here in the housing market is that all of the data we see has a lag on it, right? So every time we're talking about this data or even GDP data or inflation data, there is a lag, which means that more so than ever in the property market than maybe other markets, it never is the bottom of the market. It was the bottom of the market. And again, I talked about at the top, we're not a fan of trying to time the market, but if you are thinking you want to jump in and do something, do it now, because the train will leave the station, it'll get going, and you'll be trying to outsave a moving housing market to get that deposit. And we just found out that the first home buyer grant has been taken away, right? Which means that there is now more demand for renters because everyone who's saving for the house is going to have to rent for a little bit longer. So again, if you can get in while the prices are down, now is absolutely the time to do it.
Cool. So what message, Mike, would you have for first home buyers in particular?
Yeah, cool. So there's two groups here I want to split it up into. One is first home buyers and one is investors. For first home buyers, look, over 80% lending has been pretty difficult to get for the last 12 to 18 months. Banks aren't doing pre-approvals. You had to go out and get a live deal to be able to get some over 80% lending. Some are starting to do it again though, which means that there is increased accessibility for those pre-approvals at over 80%. This is great news for first home buyers. It means you know exactly how much you can buy before you go out and start making offers on houses. And with over 80% lending, if the price of the house you bought is rising and you are paying down the loan, that means that you're going to get to that magic 20% equity number much quicker than if house prices were decreasing and you're trying to pay it off faster than the price of the house is going down. So that is great news if you're in the over 80% space. More houses are selling by negotiation. Beautiful, right? There is nothing worse than when you're a first home buyer and you go out and get the solicitor to do the due diligence. You go and get the building inspection. You get all your ducks in a row. It costs you about $1,200 to $2,000 because you need that registered valuation on the property as well. You go to the auction, you get blown out of the water, and you got to start from the start
You
again.
never had a chance in the first place. But with negotiation, you can condition to all these things, right?
Yep.
And you can have that conversation. There's less people to compete with, and you've got a better chance.
100%. Last point for first home buyers. Housing stock is at an 8-year high in March of 2024. Almost 12,000 new listings came on the market. You have choice. You have options. It is a buyer's market. You can negotiate on price, negotiate on terms, negotiate on settlement dates, and deposit amounts. If I said to you in 2021 peak market, no, you'd be able to negotiate the deposit down or the settlement date further out, everyone would laugh you out of the room,
You're
right?
dreaming, mate.
Yeah, it has never been a better time for first home buyers to get in so long as they can afford it.
Okay, let's talk about investors, Mike.
Yeah, right. So property investors, a lot of the same things kind of resonate with both of these groups here, but I'll talk about a few things specific to the investors. The LVR restrictions for in-situ investment properties are relaxing soon. So instead of 35% deposit, it's going down to 30%. Great news for everyone when you're in a bit of a tight equity market. You may not have that 35% deposit because the price of your house has dropped. So you got a little bit less equity. Now you only need 30%, or soon you'll only need 30%, which means that you have a little bit more options in terms of what you can go out and buy. Interest deductibility. That's getting rolled back on in-situ properties. So it's at 80% at the moment. It's going to 100% next year. Another great news for property investors.
Cash flow wise, that makes a substantial difference.
Yeah. And then we just heard that the first home buyers grant has been taken away. Now, there are always winners and losers with every decision that the government makes and every policy they put out. First home buyers in this scenario, losers. Investors, probably going to win out of this a little bit because it means that everyone saving for a house deposit is going to have to stay renting and saving that little bit longer. It'll keep that increased demand for renters there a little bit.
So I think the really big piece here, right, is everybody, when we go through tough times, always thinks tough times are going to last. Like, we're very short-sighted with this stuff. But we were never at the bottom of the market. It was the bottom of the market. In hindsight, this is going to be very, very obvious, but people are scared, right, Mike, to make a move when we're in times like we are right now.
Oh, because it's that personal risk thing, right? Everyone's telling you, nah, don't do it. You know, your Uncle Bob at the Barbie saying, mate, just put it all in gold, hold it all in term deposits, get bonus bonds. I've always won off them. If you go out and make a move and it turns out to be wrong, that means everyone at that barbecue turns around and goes, I told you so. But trust me, they will not be doing that. When you are 20 years down the track, looking back on buying a house at the bottom of the market or close to the bottom of the market, you'll be the one that made the right decision.
Yeah, and pessimists are right a lot, but optimists are rich.
Yep.
So make sure that you think about, while all the data is there, implying that, what is going to happen over the next couple of years. The big thing is nobody's buying a house for 12 months anyway. No, like, if you're speculating like that, good luck to you, because who knows what the hell could happen. But if you are thinking about buying for the long term, there's potentially great opportunities out there.
100%.
Okay, let's wrap it up there. Much love to Partners Life for sponsoring the episode. Make sure to subscribe, review, and like, and we will catch you next time.
Cheers.